And then every now and then on this podcast, we like to get a little bit philosophical.
Yeah.
Like we like to get a little bit philosophical. Not quite talking about the situation in the Middle East at the moment. Not quite that level yet. But essentially, what Shaun is talking about is that this Major, what's his name?
Major Jonesy.
Major Jonesy is played by an actor called Arinze Kene, and he is a black British actor who is in this position in World War II, as a major in the British Army. Yeah, and that is so okay. Well, first of all, I want to get you guys. I want to get your star ratings for this film, and then we'll go and talk. We'll have a little bit of a 5-minute thing about colorblind casting. All right. So, how many stars would you give it?
I like this film a lot. 4. I'd like this film a lot. 4.
I liked it very much. Yeah, I'd give it a high 4.
All right, cool. So high 4. Oh, good Lord. Right on time.
Good timing.
To be honest with you, even though I pick up on this sort of thing, I didn't really notice it in this.
It was very subtly done. I did say that last week.
I didn't notice it because sometimes you think it becomes a bit obvious. It's a bit like we're just going to ignore all historical fact and we're just going to do it anyway. Which I think in some ways I prefer, because it's like if it's in your face, then you know that it's intentional.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice it in this at all.
No, I didn't think, because a lot of people, because it was done so well. But I didn't realise that apparently there's tax breaks, because I was having a discussion with someone. They say, oh, yeah, there's tax breaks in this country in particular where, if...
Well, and I think that's a good thing now, because I think, obviously colorblind casting is becoming more and more of a thing. It's been a thing in theatre for years, where it doesn't matter. You can have you've had like David Oyelowo playing King Lear on stage in London West End. And I think on stage, because you are already... I think that there's more of a suspension of disbelief needed for watching something on stage than there is for watching something on screen. So, and there are times like you had the David Copperfield movie that was released a while back with Dev Patel playing David Copperfield, and that was just
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was just totally colorblind casting all over the shop. Yeah. Everything was done. And there are some times when it sticks out and you're like, hang on a second, what are you doing? I remember you were talking about Wicked Little Letters.
Wicked Little Letters, it didn't work in that context at all. It didn't work. Yeah,
for you, it didn't work there. For me, I remember watching the Longest Day. No, not Longest Day. The Darkest Hour. That's it. Darkest Hour. Yeah. The Gary Oldman Churchill film. And there's a scene in it where he goes into the tube, and there's just like this black dude just sitting there, and I'm like, wait a second. That whole scene in the tube, I think, is ill-conceived anyway. But
see, I quite like that scene on the tube.
Well, yeah, but I feel like
I just like that whole bit, like never, never, never. I just thought that's a bit I quite like about it, because that's the feeling that you get. I thought they did that. I like that.
Yeah, but the thing is, that scene is extremely contrived. It is extremely contrived. And if you think about it for a second, you're like, okay, would Churchill actually just have been able to walk onto the tube like that with absolutely nobody following him?
No idea how to do it for a start. He was an aristocrat. There's no way he would have been stunning on the tube.
and also for me, the thing is that then they just had this bit where you just had a black guy sitting beside a white woman on the tube,
and no one said anything. Yeah,
and no one's acting like, everyone's acting like, oh, that's okay, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not the way it is, and that's something that took me out. And Shaun, you're talking about the whole colorblind cast, and I think this is, quite frankly, I think it is a problem with the British TV industry. Not the fact that they're doing colorblind casting, it's the fact that they want to do colorblind casting, and it's good that they want to do colorblind casting, because for so long, a whole bunch of people have been kept out of the things. Stories haven't been told. The problem I find is that there is a preponderance in the UK for, I think, most of the stuff that's made here. It's either centered around World War II, or it's like Jane Austen period dramas.
Yeah.
And if you, we just lost Shaun. But it's like, it's Jane Austen. Maybe, I did not realize he felt that strongly. I start talking as Shaun leaves, but it's either like, essentially there's a lot of period stuff.
Yeah.
So it's either like, Jane Austen type stuff, period drama,
like
or it's like World War
II.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and when you look at that,
it doesn't matter because that's fantasy anyway. But it's
when
it creeps into history that you think you're just deliberately ignoring history.
Yeah, so if you are going to do that, and if you're going to if that's all you're going to make in the UK, if all you're going to make is going to be World War II era TV shows or films and costume dramas and then at the same time you're trying to make a more fair, equitable industry where people who are not white have a role,
get a fair deal. Yeah.
The only way you can do it is colorblind casting, and I think that is so. I think that there probably would be, as you're saying, Shaun, tax breaks where they would say something like, if you can guarantee that this is just not going to be a whole totally white cast, then there's probably some money you can access. But then it's a case of it's up to the filmmaker to do it in a way that doesn't jar. That doesn't jar and doesn't make that doesn't sort of like, break, what's the word I'm talking about, that it doesn't break credibility, doesn't make you think, okay, hang on, what the heck are we doing here? Because I know personally, as with, look, I'm Nigerian, and I know what it's like when it feels like somebody comes in and tries to take your culture and tries to replace it with another one. And I can imagine that that's what it must feel like, especially with you guys who have ties to something like, World War II. Your families were involved in that and fought in that. And then if it now starts feeling as if you're trying to sort of like, I'm pretty sure this is not a phrase, but blackwash history, and kind of like go. I can understand why it would feel like that, but at the same time, I can also understand why that would happen from an industry perspective. Yeah,
but I mean, if it was
you don't really have any roles for black people.
That's it. If it was in your face, though, let's just say, for instance, 12 Years a Slave. Yes. Could you put a white person in 12 Years a Slave?
You see, and Shaun, this is an argument I hear a lot when people say that kind of stuff, and I say no. And the reason you can't is because of history. It's because
history. World War II's history.
No. But what I mean by history is because black people and essentially anybody who isn't white has been discriminated against and has been pushed aside. Like it's a similar thing when you gender flip a role, and like let's say there's a role that has traditionally been played by a man and you give it to a woman, then that is more acceptable than if you take a role that is played by a woman and you replace it with a man. Like if you decide to do Charlie's Angels but you replaced all the women with men, there's going to be an uproar about it because women have been discriminated against for ages. They've not been given good roles, and now the few roles that there are for women, you're taking them away and giving them to a man. Same way with the 12 Years a Slave. If you said, okay, we're going to do 12 Years a Slave, but we want to put a white guy in the lead, it's black people have been discriminated against for ages, and now you have one good role, and you're going to take it away from a black person and give it to a white person.
Okay, I can see the point. I was just making that. I wasn't saying that's
no, but no,
I
Shaun.
was just making the point. I mean, I'm as left as you come, really.
Yeah. No, Shaun, because I think that what you're saying is actually a valid point. The only problem is history. And if black people hadn't been discriminated against and pushed out and kept out for all those years, then it wouldn't be a problem. It wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, put a white guy to play the lead in 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point.
And
I think in terms of like British culture, though, obviously the culture's changed dramatically since the 40s, when the sort of balance of the percentage of sort of non-white people in the country has sort of grown exponentially. So before then, I think it probably would have been, obviously there'd be people of different colours or different ethnicities in this country for a long time.
It's just the roles that they would have had. Like a major in the British Army during World War II. It's hard to imagine a black person in that role.
Yeah, but the American,
in the RAF. So, but I suppose that's a different thing altogether. But the only part of me, I don't. Obviously, you accept this is the way the world is. Part of me feels a bit like I don't think they could make things like Pride and Prejudice now. With like Colin Firth and Jennifer Ely, they wouldn't be able to make that now. Which part of me feels like, oh, well, that's a bit of a shame, really, because that was almost like a perfect production, but it was made 30 years ago.
Yeah,
and you think they wouldn't make that today, and you wonder what today's version would look like, whether it would not in terms of the casting, but would they be able to do an adaptation of a book to keep it quite faithful to the way that they're described in the book, the way they're in the book? But I suppose if it's fiction, it doesn't really matter that much because it's a work of fiction anyway.
But I'll tell you what I think.
Sometimes you want to better see the book the way it's written, and if it's an old book, that's the way it's written.
Oh, it's funny you should mention that. Have you heard about the furore about the new Wuthering Heights?
Yeah, so people are saying Heathcliff was a man of colour, and it's like, no, he wasn't. I think he was just. They describe him as like a gypsy, but that could be anything, couldn't it?
Yeah, but apparently, I've never heard Wuthering Heights, but they talk about the fact that he is deliberately referred to a couple of times in the book as dark.
Yeah, but that could be like they do that as any
dark character.
But they refer in some books to the Black Irish, and when they talk about the Black Irish, they don't actually mean sort of African ethnicity, they mean someone who's got black hair, as opposed to like the ginger Irish or the fair Irish. They would just they would refer to them as black Irish.
Yeah, well,
so often you think when someone's described as being dark, it could just be that they're like that.
I think just put it in context. The historical context is better, and I mean in historical context with all the other films, all the films that are made up to date, or maybe 2000s a bit liberal, that's fine. But when it comes, and I think we said when it comes to an historical movie,
yeah,
Well, I'll tell you.
There are ways and ways of doing it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, because I mean, there's loads of different levels you can go to. You can go to, okay, hang on a second, this person was blonde, and therefore they should only be played by a blonde actor or something like that. There's a whole bunch of levels you can go to, and it's all about, and I think a little bit of it, there's quite a bit of it that's subjective as to where you personally draw the line and where you personally feel like. I think that's, but there is a Sharon, there is a solution to this, and that is just make more things that are not World War II movies or period dramas.
Exactly.
You do have this sort of chasm between modern crime fiction or dramas about murders, don't you? And then you've got like everything else, which tends
but as I say, in this film, it was very, very subtle and very well done. Because Sharon didn't even notice it.
Yeah, I'll say that because that's
a good thing.
And okay, that's a good thing. And the last thing I'll say about this is because we've also had an exodus of black British actors who end up going to America. Because they can't find the roles in England. Yeah. So like you have like David Oyelowo, who pretty much is based in America now. David Harewood, he disappeared for like 10 years, and he was on Homeland, and he was on Arrow, and all. And you have this thing with black. Idris Elba
went to The Wire.
He disappeared for ages. He went there, became a big name, then he came back, and that's how we got Luther. So it's the fact that and this is a problem, but then that creates another problem because then black American actors start complaining about all these British people coming over and taking their jobs. So the question for me, the answer is just make more diverse TV shows. Therefore, there'll be more space for more people to get in there, and then you can have your historically accurate Pride and Prejudice and your historically accurate David Copperfield, your historically accurate World War II people with all the people, because then it doesn't feel as if the industry as a whole is locking some people out. So essentially I agree. I understand where you guys are coming from, and I understand where because it feels as if your culture is being ignored.
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't agree with that, Tos. I would say that it's just out of context of the film. It's from a purely historical fact. Nothing to do with, what it is with. From a purely historical fact, I think things should stay, like factually correct. So I mean, well, you know me, I'm always facts. Like I can pick up badges and stuff like that. So
sure. Shaun complains if the belt buckle is wrong in a World War II movie.
That's what I mean. So, and I mean, I know a lot of people had issues with Tarzan, but the stuff they wore at the beginning in the film Tarzan was just spot on for Belgian soldiers at that time. So.
All right, cool. And so we will stop there, and we'll get back to talking about films and stuff. Because if anybody's listening to this and is going, "Oh my god, get him off his soapbox," shut up.
Yeah, shut up.
All right, cool. So now it is like, and I'll say, no, Colourblind Casting. I deserve the right to stand here and talk. Well, anyway, and
we'll still see it, whatever.
We'll still watch it anyway. But as I say, this was done excellently. If Sharon didn't notice it,
I didn't even notice.
That's perfect. And I didn't really, although I picked it up, it wasn't detrimental to the film.
It didn't totally ruin it. You still gave it 4 stars. Yeah. All right, cool. And now let's go over to Netflix and Friends. And I'm going to